International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority and supported by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Coming up on International Trade Focus,
we shall bring you highlights on the National Conference on the Implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area (Afcfta) agreement held in Accra.
And later, Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Alain Chiamantin, has launched COVID-19 support by Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, to the local pharmaceutical sector in Ghana. Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of International Trade Figures. On this week's episode, we'll be bringing you highlights of the National Conference on the Implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. Now, this conference was organized by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Ghana Exports Promotion Authority, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the National AFCFTA Coordinating Office. Now, the conference was under the theme Empowering Ghanaian Businesses to Harness the Benefits of the AFCFTA under the framework of the National Export Development Strategy. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority, sharing good fortunes, GOIL, good energy, ADB, Truly, Agric, and more. International Trade Focus is also supported by Pediatric Valley Resort. This episode promises to be educative. Stay tuned.
Your business concepts and investment must be harnessed through a hassle-free and highly thoughtful process to make them globally competitive. That is precisely the mission of the Ghana Free Zones Authority. Ghana Free Zones Authority packages Ghana's enabling business and investment environment with endless benefits. Total exemption from major taxes and levies for first 10 years. Talk to us now about our business oasis created all over the country, acres of industrial enclaves for all sectors. Our beneficiaries are in vibrant business, exporting finished and processed factory inputs all over the world. And what do our clients call us? Partner. Ghana Free Zones Authority, sharing good fortunes.
Breathtaking picturesque views, the essence of tranquility recrafted. What's your desire? A romantic expedition, syndicate sessions, banquet and conferences, or a discreet weekend getaway? Just name it. It is exclusively packaged for you at Pediatric Valley Resort. Every spacious rooms, ultra-modern gym facilities, games, indoors, terrace and lawn restaurants and lounges, cozy private dining, and all the swimmer's paradise. Aquaba, any day, all year round to Pediatric Valley Resort. The acts of serenity, skillfully served.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Are you an importer or exporter? Do you need quick financing at the best rate on the market? ADB has good news for you. Walk into any agricultural development bank location nationwide for that solution to all your trade financing needs. ADB offers you pre-financing of exports and imports, post-shipment credit facilities, bank guarantees, the issuance and acceptance of letters of credit, documentary bills for collection, outward documentary collection. Enjoy free advisory services from our well-trained, dedicated trade officers. Exporters of agricultural products are encouraged to take advantage of this great service. For further enquiries, call us on 0302 210 210. ADB, making trade finance easy. ADB, Truly Agric and more.
A warm welcome back. Now, the National Conference on the Implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area was attended by the business community, the academia, and members of the various sectors of the economy. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, gave the keynote address. Here are some highlights. Take a look.
The future of our country depends very much on our capacity to make Ghana an export-led economy. And I say this because the experience of most of the advanced countries in the world attest clearly to this. Most of the advanced economies in the world are also the leading exporting countries. And this should provide a guidance for us as a country if we want our country to become a global player. And our National Export Development Strategy also confirms and affirms this message. Secondly, to be able to export, you need markets. And although I would say our domestic market of almost 30 million people is not exactly a small market size, but we know that for Ghana to become a major exporting country, we need bigger markets. And that is why the Afcfta provides an excellent opportunity for us to realize our vision of becoming a major exporting country. Thirdly, in order for us to take advantage of Afcfta, Ghana needs to diversify our export base. We can no longer continue to export only cocoa and gold and become an export-led economy. We are not going to be able to export under Afcfta cocoa to Cote d'Ivoire, or for Kenya to export coffee to Ethiopia, and vice versa. And most of our countries on the continent are all mono-export commodities. And so if, as a country, we want to take advantage of Afcfta, we have to diversify our export base and export more of value-added products. And again, I'm pleased that at the core of our National Export Development Strategy is this message of focusing on non-traditional exports. Fourth, and last but not the least, yes, Afcfta provides market access opportunity for all African countries. But the benefits of Afcfta do not accrue automatically to African countries. For any country to take advantage of the Afcfta market, that country needs to be able to produce. It's only when you produce that you can sell or you can export. And this underpins why His Excellency the President, since assuming office in 2017, has been preaching this message of value addition and production and enhancing productivity through the many interventions that we have been leading. So it is against this foregoing background that we are gathered here over the next 2 days. We'll have an opportunity to understand and appreciate the elements of the National Export Development Strategy as an umbrella framework for developing and promoting exports.
At the handing over ceremony, I indicated that according to the AU, trading under the Afcfta will commence from 1st January 2021, some 2.5 months away, when the dismantling of tariffs for trading across Africa is expected to begin. This will be yet another historic step which should benefit all Africans. We expect the trading amongst member states on the continent, that is duty-free and quota-free, in a market of some 1.2 billion people, will boost significantly intra-African trade, stimulate investment and innovation, diversify exports, improve food security, foster structural transformation, enhance economic growth, unleash the entrepreneurial dynamism of the African peoples, and above all, create jobs for Africa's youth. We in Ghana cannot afford to let the window of opportunity slip. We hope that the private sector, facilitated and actively supported by government, will be at the forefront of trying to take advantage of the vast possibilities presented by the Afcfta. Indeed, the coming into force and successful implementation of the Afcfta tie in perfectly with the vision of moving our country to a situation beyond aid. That is, to a self-reliant Ghana that has freed herself from a mindset of dependence, aid, charity, and handouts, and is determined to make intelligent, disciplined use of her considerable resources the basis for her growth and prosperity. The realization of this vision can be sooner attained if we can leverage the trade and investment prospects the Afcfta presents. The National Export Development Strategy serves as an appropriate policy framework for coordinating and consolidating public sector support for the development of exports. Let me reaffirm government's determination to assist Ghanaian businesses to take full advantage of the Afcfta and to ensure that the required financial and human resources are mobilized and developed to make Ghana a new manufacturing hub and financial service center for the African continent. Government is fully committed to the implementation of the Afcfta. With a collective desire for shared prosperity, we are confident that the Afcfta will succeed and generate a new impetus and dynamism for the rapid growth of Africa's economies and deepen the process of integration and unification in Africa.
As we approach the start of trading under the Afcfta rules on the 1st of January 2021, it is important to recognize that export development interventions shall be required at national and regional levels to ensure that the private sector and small-medium enterprises in particular harness the benefits of the Afcfta, as the theme of the conference suggests. In the context of increasing trade tensions, increasing trade and investment protectionism, and unilateral trade measures amongst key global players, as well as adoption of inward-looking approaches, the imperative of an integrated African market becomes all the more important. However, Africa's vulnerabilities and limited participation in global trade is indicative of its traditional reliance on the export of raw commodities and the import of value-added products. The recent global financial and economic crises including the COVID-19 pandemic, have demonstrated the vulnerability of many African economies to external shocks, including fluctuating commodity prices. The continent's full export potential will remain unfulfilled unless we address the challenges of poor infrastructure, small and fragmented market, underdeveloped production structures, shallow industrial base, and inadequate economic diversification. Until the onset of COVID-19, Africa was the second fastest growing region in the world after Asia. According to the IMF, in the year 2019, 7 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world were in Africa. The African Development Bank had projected Africa's economic growth to be at 3.4% for the year 2020, before the onset of the pandemic. Contrast that with the bleak economic outlook that confronts Africa today. The African Union Commission has projected that Africa's economic growth will contract by between 2.1 and 4.9% by the end of this year. Similarly, the World Bank projects that as a consequence of the pandemic, Africa may experience a recession for the first time in 25 years. Given all of this, it may appear as if this conference could not have been convened at a worse time in terms of the state of the global economy. However, I believe that the bleak economic outlook that confronts Africa today challenges all of us to think innovatively about what we can do to re-inject dynamism and growth back in Africa's economy. At the heart of Africa's economic recovery is the private sector taking advantage of implementation of the Afcfta as various countries across the African continent liberalize trade and reduce regulatory and non-tariff barriers. The objective of boosting intra-Africa trade by opening new markets across Africa cannot be achieved by governments alone. The role of governments is to create the necessary regulatory and legal conditions for cross-border private sector economic activity to take place. As the Afcfta Secretariat, we are committed to working with state parties to the agreement to ensure that a private sector-led recovery is driving economic recovery of Africa from the year 2021 onwards. The benefits of the Afcfta are not guaranteed, and they certainly will not happen by chance. The Afcfta Secretariat and various governments across the African continent will have to take active interventionist steps to ensure that supply-side constraints and other barriers to trade are addressed. Working with our partners, the Afcfta Secretariat shall ensure that the development of a vibrant small-medium enterprise program with a particular focus on women and youth enterprises is at the center of implementation of the Afcfta. We shall have to encourage rapid repurposing of small-medium enterprises to meet immediate requirements of a post-COVID-19 industrial value chains. As I have observed before, if the Afcfta does not result in inclusive trade and broad-based economic activity, it shall not resonate with Africans. In this regard, we are exploring various digital-enabled platforms that are aimed at enhancing market access and trade connectivity of small-medium enterprises to new markets across the African continent. We shall collaborate with the African Union Commission to leverage the African Continental Free Trade Area to accelerate the implementation of the Digital Transformation Strategy for Africa in order to transform production systems, promote industrialization and the use of advanced technology in all sectors of the production value chain. We intend to launch this digital platform for trade for SMEs connectivity in time for the start of trading under the Afcfta, which is scheduled for the 1st of January 2021. One of the biggest constraints to cross-border trade on the African continent is the cost of transactions, which is caused by the need to convert the US dollar into local currency. This high cost of transactions discourages intra-Africa trade and sustains the fragmentation of markets in Africa. I am pleased to announce to you today that we are collaborating very closely with the Afcfta Bank and other stakeholders on the African continent to establish an efficient and affordable payments and settlement digital platform for cross-border transactions through a digitized Pan-African payments and settlement system in support of the implementation of the Afcfta. By providing the requisite settlement backstop and liquidity for this payments and settlement platform, Afcfta Bank shall be giving practical meaning to our shared objective of an integrated market in Africa.
As we are all aware, the primary objective of Ghana's industrial transformation agenda is to promote an export-led economy. However, this will not happen in a vacuum, but predicated on many factors and variables. We are coming from a background characterized with decades of historically exporting mainly raw commodities which fetched low prices and insufficient foreign exchange revenues. In the last 7 years, our non-traditional export earnings have hovered around an average of $2 billion US. Although NTE revenues performed quite well in 2018 and 2019, thanks to the serious efforts of government, we could not cross the $3 billion threshold. Indeed, we recorded an NTE revenue of about $2.9 billion in 2019, whereas the target was $3.2 billion. Government's strategic decision to transform the structure of Ghana's economy from an exporter of raw materials to a manufacturing industrial export-driven one was backed with the launch of the policy document, the 10-point agenda for industrial transformation. The goal of the NEDS is to achieve substantial increases in the manufactured goods and services component of our export to attain a projected aggregate NTE's revenue target of at least $25 billion by 2029. Indeed, the objective of the NEDS is to reap the full benefits of realizing Ghana's industrial export potential and related job and income creation opportunities nationwide. The NEDS has thus been formulated to implement the 10-point agenda of government, complementing it with an export dimension. The best way to put this is to say the NEDS builds on the synergies of government's flagship programs, such as the One District, One Factory, Planting for Food and Jobs, Planting for Export and Rural Development, and District Industrialization for Jobs and Wealth Creation. This ensures that goods and services being produced from facilities under these programs are competitive and marketable in local and foreign markets. As a trade promotion organization, we are often confronted with the challenge of responding to demand for our products when we expose our indigenous Ghanaian businesses to the world as part of our mandate to promote the Made in Ghana products and services. Buyers and international customers love our products, from food items, industrial art and crafts, share-based cosmetics, apparel, to name just a few. We always hit a roadblock when large orders are placed and we are unable to deliver as requested for lack of capacity. This brings me to the pillars on which the National Export Development Strategy is hinged, and these are: 1. Expanding and diversifying the supply base for value-added exports and services. 2. Improving the business regulatory environment for export. And 3. Building and expanding the required human capital for industrial export development and marketing. In these new normal times, we have learned to begin looking inward and within the ECOWAS and African continent for new markets for our exports. The NET provides a specific strategy for supporting Ghanaian companies to penetrate and position their goods and services onto the African market. The NET also provides practical post-COVID economic recovery interventions to mitigate the COVID-19 adverse economic effects that complement the financial stimulus packages introduced by the government to cushion the private sector against the economic ravages of the pandemic. With the limited resources available, the NET has adopted a selection of products to concentrate our efforts on what we call 17 priority value chains. And I could name all of them, which will include cashew, processed in shell horticulture products, oil, seeds, processed fish and fishy products, textiles, garment and apparel, natural rubber sheets, processed cocoa, aluminium sheets, articles of plastic and other petrochemical products, services, pharmaceutical products, iron and steel products, automobiles and vehicles, industrial salt, machinery and components, and industrial starch and sugar. These priority value chains have been selected based on these key criteria: enormous export potential, domestic supply capacity, current export performance in the dynamic markets, and performance in attractive markets. The success of the NET implementation will be determined by the following key performance indicators. 1. When the NTEs contribute significantly to total exports of the country. When substantial part of NTE export is dominated by manufactured products. When NTE exports of Afcfta becomes the largest contributor to the NTE basket, and when services exports take a center stage in our global export portfolio.
You're watching International Trade Focus, and on this week's episode, we're bringing you highlights of the National Conference on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. There's more highlights on the conference after this break. Don't go away.
Breathtaking picturesque views, the essence of tranquility recrafted. What's your desire? A romantic expedition, syndicate sessions, banquet and conferences, or a discreet weekend getaway? Just name it. It is exclusively packaged for you at Peduasi Valley Resort. Every spacious rooms, ultra-modern gym facilities, games, indoors, terrace and lawn restaurants and lounges, cozy private dining, and all the swimmer's paradise. Aquaba, any day, all year round to Peduasi Valley Resort. The acts of serenity, skillfully served.
Your business concepts and investment must be harnessed through a hassle-free and highly thoughtful process to make them globally competitive. That is precisely the mission of the Ghana Free Zones Authority. Ghana Free Zones Authority packages Ghana's enabling business and investment environment with endless benefits. Total exemption from major taxes and levies for first 10 years. Talk to us now about our business oasis created all over the country, acres of industrial enclaves for all sectors. Our beneficiaries are in vibrant business, exporting finished and processed factory inputs all over the world. And what do our clients call us?
Partner.
Ghana Free Zones Authority. sharing good fortunes.
A warm welcome back. If you just tuned in, you're watching International Trade Figures. We're taking a look at some highlights of the national conference organized by the Ministry of Trade and Industry in collaboration with other state agencies on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, the conference was under the theme Empowering Ghanaian Businesses to Harness the Benefits of the Afcfta under the framework of the National Exports Development Strategy. Stay tuned for more highlights.
Today we are happy to be part of the history, and from that matter, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce will collaborate with our brothers in the industry to work hard in such a way that this opportunity, we can harness the benefits that will come to us. I must say that we need to be ready strategically to place ourselves for this opportunity. When an economy is going to be opened up, and for that matter, when we are going for an export, means that we are opening our economy. The other countries around Afcfta who will also be producing, what are Ghanaians doing? If we sit down, they will produce and bring it to Ghana. We need to come together and work so hard that we can also take a very sizable market share of Afcfta. Having our headquarters here means that there are a lot of benefits that comes to us. And we all have to embrace it together today. That is not going to be a one-man job, but a job for all of us. And so that we can take opportunity of the market. We are privileged for this opportunity. And I want to highlight that we have to look at the transportation sector. Yes, a situation where in Africa, we are not able to trade among ourselves. Intra-trade between our continent has been limited. Why? Sometimes you want to shift something from Ghana to other countries, you need to go through the global economy, the rest of the world, before your goods are landed in your neighboring country. What are we seeing? The government have done so well that now the railway lines have been he has begun a very good work to link us to the other neighboring countries. I believe that the Secretary General here today would ask other countries also to emulate that and make sure that the transportation system is linked throughout the entire continent to make business very good. The road bottlenecks where people are transporting their goods, you have to go through some cumbersome ways of going, extortion, etc., should be a thing of the past.
Third sector of interest, of course, is in exports. And today, we are looking at exports. But the question we need to ask, why is it that after centuries, before the Portuguese even landed in Elmina, we have been exporting, and yet today, 2020, we are still here. And by here, I mean, why isn't the non-traditional exporters the biggest contributor to our export earnings? And I'd like to venture the reason that export activities should not be taken in isolation. It depends completely on the status and the weaknesses of the private sector in Ghana. So if the private sector is weak, export activities also will be weak. And therefore, we are closely bound to you, AGI, GNCC, for our fortunes. The other reason is that we haven't done well with value addition. Big figures have been mentioned today about our contribution to world trade and our growth in exports. But we need to interrogate those figures. I picked up 2 weeks ago that in 1975, African industry and trade contributed 25% of world trade. Today, it's less than 1%. And what is the reason? It's because that since 75, there has been a downward trend in manufacturing. Where we should be looking is value addition. And then the exporters can take the manufactured products outside of Ghana, bringing in high return on investment. The other reason also is that since 1992, when government and US aid recognized the export activity as the major component of export growth and set up PEP, an export finance company, there has been a downward trend in the interests of government and the nation at large in exports. Thank God for today that we recognize that export is key and we are back on track to do the necessary.
I think a lot has been said about the absence of intra-Africa trade, or the minuscule level of intra-Africa trade, basically around 15–16%. Basically because we all have the same raw material base. And if we're going to add value to trade, do we know the rules of engagement? Your Excellency, Mr. Wamkele, many. What are the rules of engagement in capturing the opportunity created by the CFTA? There's a clause in the CFTA called rules of origin. The rules of origin means that what we think, the products that are going to be tradable across Africa, should have the origins of the raw material base not less than 70%. If we lower the threshold, Africa will become an assemblage of goods with countries of origin outside of Africa. We have the raw material base. Added value should come at the advantage of the African. The African agriculture is about 1 trillion. The people who control it are not going to give it to us on a silver platter. We have to fight for it. And if we're going to fight for it, we have to have the rules of engagement to support us. My constituency are the micro, small, and medium enterprises. They don't have capacity. They don't understand. How many of you out there understand the rules of engagement of the CFTA? None. Zero. Absolutely. So we have to bring the capacity, the understanding what it takes. And that depends on the Secretariat and the leaders of the African continent to engage the rules of engagement at the highest level that will benefit the African businesses.
We have to take advantage of removing what inhibitions that there are to make sure that we're able to industrialize, because that would be key for us to benefit. Because if you sell cocoa beans or gold for itself, that's fine. But you get more if you add value to it in order to do that. So that, I think it's important, that we need to do that. We also need to reduce the bottlenecks in terms of non-tariff barriers. And by non-tariff barriers, what I mean is you look at the question of goods moving where they stop at, on unwanted barrier stops. And most of these barrier stops, in my humble opinion, apart from those which are from the police for security reasons and all that, most are for what I call poverty reduction strategies on the road. The way you want to define it, that's the... So we've got to make sure that that is done. We've got to make sure that the borderless aspect that we talk about, when we talk about borderless, it doesn't mean that we're going to, remove the borders, although my dream is that we have one Africa. But what it means is that you let trucks, the movement of the trucks at the border, don't spend too much time. You don't want them to spend too much time at the harbors. So you have to try and continue doing what you're doing in terms of having one shop, the electronic, the electronic one-stop measures at the borders. We have to begin to negotiate with our neighbors, which is the Burkina Faso, the Togo, and Ivory Coast, where we should now begin to think of having one borders post. rather than the two border posts. That's what you have to do. And then to serve the West African market, we have to begin to have more internal, inland ports, so that when the goods arrive at the harbor, for those who are cutting their goods from Burkina Faso and other places, they would have to go to an internal port in order to clear the goods. So this is the one message on the trade facilitation. We've got to get the phytosanitary conditions right if we're going to be exporting our agriculture. So therefore we need to build the laboratories. The standards should be first class. And above all, what is important, let's tap into the global value chains. Let's tap into the global markets. That is what will give us the money. That is what will make Ghanaians wealthy. And that, I think, is the message that I want to suggest.
To enable Ghanaian businesses take advantage and export to the African market, first, as I said, the market and the demand must exist. Does the market exist? 1.27 billion people, and we like to talk about the 3.5 trillion GDP. Actually, we have a 6.6 trillion purchase power parity GDP, if you look at it from a purchase power parity point of view, which is actually bigger than the GDP of Russia. Yet Africa doesn't seem to look at the fact that based on a purchase power parity, we are already a very strong market already. So if you have 1.27 billion people and that amount of money on the market already, the market exists. You don't need to invent the market, it already exists. And just to illustrate, we need to look at this market before we look at how the law and the regulatory framework fits it. So I'll give you just one example, food. Then I want to use food because everybody must survive by eating. Africa's urban import food bill, and I'm talking about urban only, is $35 billion now, estimated to reach $110 billion by 2025 and $150 billion by 2030. So the market exists. But why are we importing such a huge amount of food when if you take Ghana, we can process atadwe, and we can process almost everything. There's a benquine being processed now, can them and export them into this market and create that conscious effort that this market exists. So if we look at things from that simple perspective, it makes it easier for us to see that the market exists. Now, is there a legal framework for that market? Yes. In July in Niamey, and we all happen to be there as well, the Afcfta came into force. It begins to trade in January. So the regulatory framework broadly is there, and Ghana is among the 30-odd countries at my last count which have ratified. So we do have the regulatory framework already exists. Whether businesses recognize that and able to take advantage is another matter.
I'm very happy to be here today on this program. I'm also very excited to tell the audience that we are the only local automobile assembler in the country. And you can imagine the challenges in the industry because we are a company, an infant one, growing up in Ghana among giants who have already been established years ago. And they are very strong. They are in here, and we are in here in Ghana, working together with them, trying to cave in to a market which has already been developed. In fact, when we started, it was like people took us like a joke or sort of something, but with persistent consistency, we've been able to grow to this level that we've got into now. We did our first, the launching of the first models here in these very premises 5 years ago. And it wasn't easy for us for the first year to sell even one car, because the model acceptance itself, it's a problem. So we have to devise means to go beyond that level. So people were asking Kantanka the question of, why don't you start with smaller models so that when you are able to sell to the taxi drivers, the Uber drivers, you'll be able to cave into the market. But then the challenge we had initially was with model acceptance. So how are we going to go about for Ghanaians and Africans to accept the models that we are manufacturing? So we started to go and devise the kind of conical sort of marketing strategy where we have to target those higher people in society that matter to accept the vehicles before we scale it down. So we started with the SUVs, which people are saying that, no, you should have calmed down. We said, no, let's go that way. And fortunately for us, people in the society like Otum Fuosi was one of the first people to purchase our SUVs. So with him riding in our SUV, in fact, people really accepted the product. So now we have got a leverage to go forward. Fortunately for us, we did our first export to Liberia, and then the second to Norway. It wasn't an easy task. By then, we were having the problem and then the challenges as to how are we going to be sustainable, because by then we pay duties on KD imports like the same duties on CBU imports. So from 2015, we've been petitioning successive governments for something to be done about that in terms of waiver of duties and levies. Let me take this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Trade and Industries, to thank the Minister and his team for spearheading the Ghana Automotive Development Policy. It has come to stay. And for we trying to test the policy this year with 30 KD imports, we were able to save up to 734,000 cedis on 30 KD imports with the policy. Thank you, Mr. Next.
It is very clear that the Afcfta start of trading is going to happen, and it will happen on the 1st of January 2021. We've been told that the conditions precedent for effective trading to start have been fulfilled. And all the key operational requirements that would ensure that trading is efficient and effective are also in place. So it's only on that basis that I'm confident that it will start and proceed well. Number two, we also note from the deliberations that the Afcfta can be used both as an instrument of trade and also an instrument for transformation of our continent. Three, we also note that the Afcfta for the youth of Africa is going to expand their horizon. Now they can look not only to their various countries, but to the larger continent. We also note that there's a clear convergence between the Afcfta and the SDGs. And that in actual fact, for us in Africa, we can use the implementation of the Afcfta to realize the SDGs. We also note that through the Afcfta, we can develop regional value chains which would enhance our individual productive capacities at the national level. If we are developing the automobile industry in Ghana, we can produce some of the components that will go into a vehicle. Nigeria can produce some of the components. Other countries can produce some of the components. Because we are operating in a free trade area, zero tariff, quota free, it means that we can work together as African nations to make us competitive in the global market. We also note that, yes, there will be net positive effect and impact on our continent, but it is likely that there will be negative outcomes for some countries based on the level of competitiveness of various countries that we participate in this. Under the Afcfta, there's a program of support which is being funded by the Afcfta Bank to support the competitiveness of companies in Africa. Because as Kofi rightly pointed out, it's about competitiveness. And so in order not to disadvantage any companies anywhere in our trading regime, that a $3 billion facility has been provided that can be accessed by companies. Any company that belongs to a country that is trading under the Afcfta to apply for a facility to enhance its competitiveness. In addition to that, Afcfta is also providing a $1 billion facility to mitigate the effect of the Afcfta on specific countries in terms of, let's say, loss of revenue arising from the fact that they are now going to operate in a free trade area. And then also, there is an exit clause within the agreement that allows countries, trading countries, to exit from the Afcfta in the event that they recognize that the negative impact on their economies as a result of the Afcfta outweigh the positive impact. Trade in services or services trade, which is part of the Afcfta architecture, will have a direct link in supporting industrial competitiveness in Africa, including the digitization of Africa. I know one of the gentlemen who asked the question about communications. How are we reflecting communications in the Afcfta? Just to bring to your attention that apart from the protocol on trade in goods, that's us trading in goods, the Afcfta is also going to provide a framework for us to trade in services. And there are 5 priority sectors in services that have already been negotiated. One is tourism, the other one is transportation, the other is financial services, the other one is professional services like legal, accounting, other business professional services, and the last one is communication services. It means that now Ghanaians that have competitive and viable businesses in any of these service sectors can now trade their services freely in any other country that is part of the Afcfta. And then it is also important for us to note that overall, because of the elimination of tariffs on goods that will be, and of services that will be traded between our countries, the net effect to consumers will be positive. Because with zero tariff, obviously, even if it is a disincentive in the fact that it is competing against a domestic manufacturer, for which mitigating interventions have been introduced, which I've referred to, ultimately, the consumer in Africa is supposed to benefit. I can feel the energy and the dynamism in this room over the last 2 days. Government is excited. The private companies are excited. Our financial institutions are excited. Our civil society operators are excited, I hope so. And then our regulatory agencies also are excited. So these are exciting times for Ghana, and I hope we can work together to make Ghana the new commercial capital for Africa under the Afcfta. It's now my pleasure and honor to formally bring the proceedings of this two-day conference to a close.
And those were some highlights of the National Conference on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. There's more after this break. Stay tuned.
Your business concepts and investment must be harnessed through a hassle-free and highly thoughtful process to make them globally competitive. That is precisely the mission of the Ghana Free Zones Authority. Ghana Free Zones Authority packages Ghana's enabling business and investment environment with endless benefits. Total exemption from major taxes and levies for first 10 years. Talk to us now about our business oasis created all over the country. Acres of industrial enclaves for all sectors. Our beneficiaries are in vibrant business, exporting finished and processed factory inputs all over the world. And what do our clients call us?
Partner.
Ghana Free Zones Authority, sharing good fortunes.
Here's innovation from Goyle that takes you further. New Gold Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and Goyle has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. Goyle. Good energy.
The Minister of Trade and Industry, Honourable Alain Chemanting, has launched a UK COVID-19 support programme targeted at the local pharmaceutical industry in Ghana. The support programme implemented by the Foreign Commonwealth Office FCDO is to inject some £450,000 equivalent to some 3.32 million cedis over a period of 12 months to address vulnerabilities in the pharmaceutical supply chain in Ghana. Supply chains in the pharmaceutical sector have been negatively impacted during the COVID-19 pandemic due to the sector's overdependence on the importation of active pharmaceutical industries, equipment and machinery. The minister launching the program stated that the pharmaceutical industry is one of the anchor industries that the government intends to promote to move away from the country's dependence on importation. He, however, acknowledged that the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic could disrupt government efforts in the sector.
The pharmaceutical market in Ghana is currently estimated at over $600 million with a compound annual growth rate of 13.9%. However, local production supplies only about 33% of our national essential medicines requirements. With about 38 pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in Ghana, the manufacturing industry is considered amongst the most vibrant within the ECOWAS sub-region. The positive perception of our regulatory capacity among the neighboring countries positions Ghana potentially to become the lead exporter of pharmaceutical products into the sub-region, where the market share of pharmaceutical imports into the sub-region is currently estimated at over 70%. With the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area and the start of trading, which is scheduled for the 1st of January 2021, the industry will be able to take advantage of even a wider market that will be created by this continental free trade area. I wish to emphasize that in order to sustain the growth momentum of this sector, key elements among the value chain in the industry would need investment support as follows: investment financing, joint ventures to upgrade existing pharmaceutical plants to comply with international good manufacturing practices and standards, investments in greenfield projects for WHO GMP pre-qualification for plants or higher standards to supply foreign markets. And then last but not the least, the production of advanced formulations such as sterile products or delayed release formulations. It is against this background that government very much appreciates the UK COVID-19 support measures for the local pharmaceutical industry, for which purpose we are gathered here this afternoon. As you've been told earlier, the support will ensure that the sector continues to operate at optimal capacity, thereby reducing the projected job losses.
Development Director at the FCDO, Mr. Philip Smith, said the UK supports Ghana's private sector-led growth. According to him, the launch of such support is critical for the UK if it's to achieve strong trade and investment partnerships around the world.
So the UK government really shares Ghana's vision for a private sector-led growth. And 2 years ago, we established the UK Ghana Business Council, co-chaired by His Excellency the Vice President and the UK's Minister for Africa, to drive forward a UK-Ghana partnership focused on economic development, on job creation, on trade and on investment. The last 2 years have seen the UK-Ghana Business Council has overseen millions of pounds of new UK investment into Ghana and a more targeted and impactful development assistance programme, as well as new partnerships between UK and Ghanaian institutions, including the Bank of England and the London Stock Exchange. So these partnerships are really good for Ghana, but they're also critical for the UK, particularly if we are to achieve our ambition for even stronger trade investment partnerships around the world. At the first of the UK-Ghana Business Council meetings 2 years ago, the Honourable Minister for Trade launched the UK's Jobs and Economic Transformation Programme, the JET programme. And I'm really pleased to see that this programme has been a key instrument in supporting Ghana's industrialisation efforts, both in terms of technical assistance into the automobile sector, which has spurred new investments, as well as supporting Ghana's garment producers to help them produce for both the domestic and international markets. And these are really tangible outcomes for the UK's development assistance in Ghana. This year, the UK-Ghana Partnership and JET have taken on a new importance in supporting Ghana to develop industrial capacity to support the COVID-19 pandemic response, as well as to ensure faster economic recovery post-COVID.
Chairman of the Ghana National Chamber of Pharmacy, Harrison Kofi Abutiati, commended FCDO for the support, adding that it will be key in protecting the livelihoods of some 3,000 pharmaceutical workers whose jobs have been threatened by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The situation is also creating a challenge for business, which may lead to job losses. Currently, the pharmaceutical industry in Ghana employs over 9,600 personnel on permanent or long-term basis, and up to 3,000 of these jobs are at risk to the current pandemic. The available mitigating measures for companies are limited and may impact their businesses over the longer term. It is therefore a welcoming news to receive Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, formerly DFID, interventions that are aimed at mitigating the impact of COVID-19 in the sector, which has a critical role in providing life-saving supplies to the country.
Measures against COVID-19, popularly known as the coronavirus disease. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water or alcohol-based rub. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Stay informed. Follow advice from your healthcare provider. Symptoms of coronavirus include fever, a runny nose, cough, sore throat, possibly a headache. Should you or anyone you know begin to exhibit the symptoms of COVID-19, do not go to the hospital but call emergency number 112.
Are you an importer or exporter? Do you need quick financing at the best rate on the market? ADB has good news for you. Walk into any agricultural development bank location nationwide for that solution to all your trade financing needs. ADB offers you pre-financing of exports and imports, post-shipment credit facilities, bank guarantees, the issuance and acceptance of letters of credit, documentary bills for collection, outward documentary collection. Enjoy free advisory services from our well-trained, dedicated trade officers. Exporters of agricultural products are encouraged to take advantage of this great service. For further enquiries, call us on 0302 210 210. ADB, making trade finance easy. ADB, truly agric and more.
And it's a wrap for today's edition of International Trade Figures. Join us same time next week for some more on international trade-related activities here in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Figures is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority. They say sharing good fortunes, GOL, good energy, ADB, truly, agric, and more. International Trade Figures is also supported by Pediazic Valley Resort. My name is Anna Spio. Until we come your way again same time next week, follow us on all our social media platforms for more news updates on international trade-related activities here in Ghana and beyond. Bye-bye.